Honey, there he was, standing up in front of the meeting house with two women on either side. One of them was giving him some kind of drink from a jug. I think it was liquor. And the other one was sitting there fanning him like he was the Prince of Persia. What kind of meeting did I just go to? If this kind of behavior seems normal to you, well then, honey, you are probably a Barkerite of Alabama. Well, hello there, my silky friends. It is Sunday. That makes it our Silky Sunday afternoon saucy stories. I don't know. Something like that. Today we're going to start out with me showing you this. Is this not fabulous? Obviously, she needs cleaned up, but it's going to be perfect for our fancy teas. Today's story is not fancy. It is just downright disturbing. Our tea flavor of the day is lemon ginger, because this one is going to be tart and it might give you some heartburn. So do you have your cup of tea? Honey, for this one you might need to spike that a little bit. And today we are starting with a very fancy Sunday going to meeting hat. I love these hats. I don't know. What do y'all think? Today we are going to be talking about the Barkerites. Now, I've lived in this state my whole life. I've never heard of a Barkerite. What is a Barkerite? Well, these are people that followed John Samuel Barker. And you ain't gonna believe it. So, John Samuel Barker was born to John and Nancy Barker in 1861. So, this would have been right in the height of the Civil War. I don't know if somebody dropped him on his head. I've got no idea. And I'm sorry to the families that are still, thriving and surviving here in Alabama. We all got somebody like that in our family. Y'all know it's true. Somewhere along the way, John Barker decided to just leave the regular established religions and just kind of go strike out on his own. Now, while there's nothing wrong with that, he just went a little bit left of right. These are all documented and reported goings-on in the church. Honey, we're spilling the tea on John Barker and the Barkerites. You're gonna need a drink for this one. First of all, John Barker was, I guess, considered somewhat handsome. Here's a picture. But his biggest claim to fame was that he was a great orator. People could sit and listen to him for hours. I mean, he could keep you mesmerized. And he knew all the scriptures. He could recite from cover to cover, and people really didn't always know if it was in or out of context, but he was spurting those scriptures, and people were just believing and amening him left and right. Not everybody was so enchanted with him, especially the younger crowd. One Sunday, there were two girls that got tired of him just going on and on and on during the sermon, and they decided to go outside and sit in a tree in the backyard. I mean, your bottom can only take so much. Anyway, when they left, he made the whole rest of the sermon about them. He called them Jezebels, and he just did a whole sermon on the evils of women. Well, I think that Mr. Barker did have a bit of a problem with women. He may have wanted to be one. Now let me stop right here and put in my disclaimer. The opinions expressed in this video, honey, they're all mine. So it was kind of a well-known fact that Mr. Barker, he liked to imbibe a little bit of the hoochie water and anything else he could get his hands on. He was a pill popper. That was seen many times. His regular followers said he drank a bottle of white liniment before every sermon. Honey, if I drank liniment, I wouldn't be able to find my backside with both hands. However, Mr. Barker, because he wasn't accepted in the regular church houses, he had to go to meeting houses or brush arbors. This was a big time for brush arbors, and if you don't know what a brush arbor is, it is where you're out in a field or something somewhere, and all you do is you take a few poles and or trees, and you put like a little sticks and branches over the top. We never put it over anybody but the preacher, so I guess the congregation just gets wet. But honey, anyway, you build a brush arbor and everybody sits out there. Now, if Mr. Barker wasn't in a brush arbor, he was in somebody's house. And so they go from home to home meetings. The more Mr. Barker drank, and it said he was well known to do, honey, the more he used this, the crazier he got. Imagine that. Barker all of a sudden declared that he was the bride of Christ. Was at first accepted because we all kind of are the bride of Christ, right? That's a common teaching. Oh, but no. He said that he actually menstruated like a female. Say, huh? Well, one of his younger congregants really made him so furiously mad because he claimed that it wasn't menstruation that the Reverend was having, but it was a case of the bloody piles. If you don't know what a bloody pile is, he's talking about hemorrhoids. Well, Preacher Barker was furious. He did an awful lot of preaching against women in his sermons. They were all of the devil. But strangely enough, it's said, although it can't be documented, that he demanded his female followers be baptized in the nude. Did nobody ever question this stuff? Really? But there was one thing that he did say that was very, very upsetting. Even worse than the rest of this. He said that there was a devil in every single family. Honey, if you only got one in your family, I'd say you're doing good. I'm counting the numbers. According to the Reverend Barker, the devil in the family needed to be killed. Okay, so now we're having naked women pill popping, drinking, and we're starting to kill people. Something don't sound right here. He further came up with a doctrine that said the seventh son of every family was to be killed. They were of the devil. Now, I'm just saying, I don't care how many kids I have. You tell me to kill one of them, honey, you better watch your back. I'm not kidding. However, and unfortunately, there were a lot of people that believed him. As a matter of fact, one of his followers led his son out into the barn and locked him up in there with the meanest mule you ever did see, hoping that the mule was going to kick him to death. Well, when his friends and neighbors and family found out, they had a hissy fit, and they told him, go get your son out of that barn. Well, finally they talked some sense into it. Unfortunately for him, after he realized what he had almost done, it just made him a little crazy in the head, and he was literally sent to a mental institution where he died. I wonder what God thinks about that, Mr. Barker. Another thing, Reverend Barker had some thugs, parishioners. That's politically correct. He had some thugs that he would send out to the houses, to his followers, to shake them down for money, for tithes and offering. They'd come beating on the door, demanding their 10%. Again, what is wrong with these people? I'd have to tell you, get in line, buddy. Get in line. Although he was busy shaking down the congregation, he had his own side business making the hooch water. Because he said that making and selling liquor was okay, and this is during Prohibition. Oh, it's fine to do all that, so long as you sell it to a non-believer. With all the drinking he was doing, I guess he didn't believe much of anything either. One story I just love about John Barker is he decided one day to make a big show, and he told his congregation that he was fixing to walk on water the next afternoon. Well, they were all in amazement. Unbeknownst to him, some of the younger members of the congregation, who probably had much more sense than the older ones, they followed him. They just kind of, snuck up. They were watching him. They wanted to see every move he made. Well, they found him the day before going to the river, and he placed these rocks and stones and planks just up underneath the surface where you couldn't see him, and that's how he planned to do this miraculous thing the next day. So while Reverend Barker decided to go home and get some rest, the children decided to take down his platform. So the next day rolled around, and after a big long speech and message and where he was puffing himself up, everybody was gasping and mesmerized. He told them to come on down to the river, that he was going to show them, prove that he could walk on water, because he was the second Christ. That seems to be a common theme amongst some people. So anyway, he has this crowd. He goes down to the river, and he starts walking out there, and all of a sudden he sinks like a rock, because there was no platform. Well, when he realized what had happened, he was so angry, embarrassed, humiliated. Now, I don't know. My question is this: why did people keep following him? When he clearly could not walk on water, he was clearly drinking, he clearly had this woman standing there fanning him. I don't get it. Why did you stay? And here's another thing that's not going to be strange when it comes to cults. In 1915, Mr. Barker announced to everyone that in 1917 the world was coming to an end. Where we heard this before. Same story, different body. He told all of the congregation to sell everything they had, get rid of it, in preparation for the great event. But instead of just giving it away to friends or family or selling it and keeping the money, they said, no, bring it to me. Either bring your money to me, bring your stuff to me, you bring all your worldly goods to me. Was he planning on taking it with him? Maybe he wasn't planning on going. Maybe he knew it wasn't God that was coming after him. It's a thought. What do you think? In 1917, when the day came and God didn't, he lost a big part of his following, and he decided to move to Oklahoma. Now, during this time, and his teachings on the seventh son, he not only had the one man who did that, but he also had another family whose boy was somewhere between 5 and 7 years old. And what they did is they kind of went out of the area and killed the son. I do not have any details, nor would I probably give them. But when they returned, they had his body in a suitcase, and they placed it back under their house. Well, I don't know how the word got out or what they admitted to, but the authorities caught wind of it, as did some other people. And so all of a sudden, they took their suitcase and disappeared into the night. All we know for sure is they did actually go through with the murder, as did John Barker's nephew, who killed his 7th son as well. However, it was very convoluted, and somehow in the details he never actually got charged with murder, but he did go to prison for some other kind of charges that we're not sure of. So you can see what a big, ugly, evil influence this man was. One of the last things the Reverend Barker told people was that he was immortal. Yeah, he just announced that one Sunday from the pulpit, I'm immortal. I don't think he did it like that. But anyway, he said he could not be killed. But after that, he was seen with armed guards everywhere. In the days when he had a buggy, horse and buggy, he had armed guards on the side of the buggy. Then later on in life, he had a whole motorcade. I guess he thought he was the president. For someone who was immortal, he sure was scared of his life. As well he should have been. So finally, at a ripe old age, it was time for John Barker to meet his maker. By this time, he didn't have much of a following. But he still told people that if it appeared that he had died, you just wait, because he was going to rise again. He wasn't really dead. Because he couldn't die. They stood out there armed guards around his grave for 2 years. He died in 1934. By 1936, they figured he wasn't coming back. And I'm going to be honest with you, I hope they put cement on the top of that coffin. Anyway, by the time the 2 years had passed, all of the rest of his followers had either dropped off or passed away themselves, and that was the end, I think he died, of the Barkerites. So tell me, how did you like that story? Have you ever heard it before? And would you call John Barker silky or shady? And let me just say this here, completely off of the storylines. What I find so disturbing about this story is how much has gone on years later. You had the Heaven's Gate cult. You've had numerous people saying Jesus is coming back and to sell all your stuff. Or back in 1988, the story was, run up your credit cards and live high on the hog because you're going to be raptured away and you're not going to have to pay it. We see this trend going on and on. Let me tell you this. It's okay to question. If something doesn't feel right, if something doesn't sit right with you, if it feels off, or it feels illegal, or immoral, or insane, you question it. And there's nothing wrong with walking out that door. I think that's the saddest thing, is that people get caught up into believing someone so much that they follow blindly. Y'all, use your heads. God ain't about all that. Alright, my little bitty rant is over, but I hope it helps some of you to sit back and question. It's okay. It's okay. Anyway, hope you enjoyed today's story. If you like stories like these and you love to sit back on a Sunday afternoon and listen to something that you've probably never heard, then go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. I hope it brought a smile or to your face this week. And remember, y'all, no matter what, stay silky.